Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Devedi and in this segment today, we are going to discuss about Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains paper. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. These are the topics that we are going to discuss step by step, starting with the news. India at the United Nations General Assembly has said that because Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty does not talk about and take into cognizance the issues with respect to the Indian scenario. That is why India is not ratifying and signing this treaty. So, if we talk about Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, it has its genesis in the Conference on Disarmament in Geneva that was in the year 1996, and it bans all sort of nuclear explosion anywhere or by anyone in the world, and it works in terms of zero yield. That means it tries to ban and it bans the hydronuclear tests, but it does not ban the subcritical hydrodynamic nuclear tests. So, what are hydronuclear tests? Hydronuclear tests are basically the analysis of nuclear materials under super explosive compression, and it can be from negligible to the highest of the level. And subcritical hydrodynamic nuclear tests are similar, but the effects on the nuclear materials are negligible. So just understand that. The treaty will enter into force after all 44 states that are listed in Annex 2 of the treaty when they will ratify it. So these countries are the countries which had nuclear warheads as their possession when the treaty was open for sign. And ratification and signing, you must have heard about it a lot. So signing basically means that we are open. When somebody signs a treaty, that means we are open for negotiation and we have a similar intent of agreement. But ratification means to form a proper legislation. When we talk about domestic politics in the domestic legislature, when some country has a proper legislation in with respect to implementing this treaty, that is called ratification. Okay, and Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Organization has been developed in order to see the execution of these particular, whatever the mandate of the CTBT is being implemented or will be implemented by the CTBTO. This is headquartered in Vienna and this was established in the year 1996 itself. Okay, but because of many states not even signing it, forget about ratifying it, even signing it is a big deal to them. So because of that, this treaty has not come into force yet and it doesn't have any legal obligation. So these countries such as India, Pakistan and North Korea, these are some of the countries that have not signed and ratified the treaty. Let's move forward and talk about India's nuclear policy. So India's nuclear policy has the simplest of the simple mandates. First is to build and maintain a credible minimum deterrent. Deterrent means it's a kind of passive defense that suppose if China wants to attack India, but it will think about not attacking India and it will hesitate in attacking India because of the presence of nuclear arms. So this is deterrent. That means the other country will have to bear more damage if it attacks the first country. It's like that. Then also we have a posture of no first use. If India given a chance to use the nuclear weapons at the first instance, India will not do so because we have a posture of no first use. Then nuclear retaliation to a first strike will be massive and designed to inflict unacceptable damage. That means if any country attacks India, then India will attack the other country at the first strike, and the first strike will be designed in a manner that the damage is massive and completely inflicting and crippling on the other country. And nuclear retaliatory attacks can only be authorized by civilian political leadership through the Nuclear Command Authority. So, Nuclear Command Authority is basically divided into two categories. First is the Political Council. Second is the Executive Council. Okay. So, Political Council is headed by the Prime Minister, and this council will be the chief advisor or the only advisor, only commander to sanction any kind of nuclear attacks. And the Executive Council is headed by the National Security Advisor, okay, and the National Security Advisor will head the Executive Council and implement the actions. Keep that in mind. Then, non-use of nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states. This is also one of the mandates of nuclear policy of India. Also, a continuance of strike controls on export of nuclear and missile related materials and technology. So, India has promised that even if we are a nuclear power, we will abide by the rules that strict controls should be imposed on export of nuclear armaments and missiles related to missile warheads from the country. One thing keep in mind that even if there is any sort of biological or chemical attack on the Indian army in the country or anywhere in the country will be, according to its own authorization, will be using the nuclear arms. Okay. Then participation in the fissile material cut-off treaty negotiations is a continuous basis for India according to India's nuclear policy, and continued observance of moratorium on nuclear tests, which India has voluntarily and unilaterally put on itself after 1998, and continued commitment to the goal of nuclear weapon-free world through globally verified and non-discriminatory nuclear disarmament. We will talk all about that in detail next. Okay, so India and the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So, if we talk about India, India's stand on a nuclear warhead-free world was in the year 1954, has been there since the year 1954, when the then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said that there should be a complete and voluntarily given up status of nuclear weapons between the US and the USSR. But in the year, a partial test ban treaty was entered into in 1963, and that was between US, USSR and the UK. It wasn't complete but partial. And in June 1978, after that many things happened, but we are going to just concentrate on the important ones. In June 1978, India called in a statement for a ban on nuclear weapon testing at special sessions of the United Nations General Assembly. Then again a call was there in 1982 for a freeze on nuclear weapon production. Okay, and then in the year 1988, India suggested a 22-year time-bound period for gradual decrease in the nuclear armament. Then, India proposed an action plan that advocated a ban on development of new weapon system, but the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, this was discriminatory in nature for India because it not only validated the possession of nuclear weapons in the hands of the permanent 5 members of the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, but also increased the discrimination as well as gave them validation to possess it for an indefinite period of time. So that was discriminatory in nature. Then India did express a flexible position on Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. It said that the world should look into a voluntary as well as universal and non-discriminatory disarmament of nuclear weapons. That means India wanted that none of the countries of the world should possess nuclear weapons And this should not be discriminatory in nature, that a group of certain countries who have been by default considered nuclear states, they should continue to do so, and the rest of the other world should not. That is another thing. Now, India said that the treaty could not exist in vacuum and dependent on a series of reciprocal activities from the P5 nation. That means universal, complete nuclear disarmament in a time-bound manner. Also, indefinite extension we have already talked about, and crucial domestic political factors. These are some things that India is actually having a problem in dealing with the CTBT. How? See, India, for not joining the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, one reason is the continuation of the 1995 status quo, that the 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council, they are required to have nuclear warheads. For having a status quo to be developed, these countries were not letting go of their power. So India similarly, because of the continuation of that, India had to still remain kind of aloof from the treaty. Second is crucial domestic political factors. Now, India has a lot of political factors to look into. If India, as a country right now, which is surrounded by China, Pakistan, and now a volatile Afghanistan, decides to let go of the nuclear arms by signing CTBT and not keeping the options of nuclear tests again, that would send a wrong message. Also, uncertain dangers India faces from Pakistan and China. Pakistan and China both are nuclear states. If India has to sign the CTBT, that means it is letting go of any sort of experimentation with nuclear warheads. So that is another issue. And Arundhati Ghose's statement in 1996, she said then only that India will not sign this unequal treaty, not now, not later. And the stand is similar after approximately 2 decades as well. Moving on. So, what are the gains for India? If India signs this treaty and ratifies it, first is the diplomatic gain. India, as it is in the process of becoming one of the major global powers, if it signs this treaty, diplomatic gains such as having, already India has gotten into the Wassenaar arrangement, Australia group, and also it wants a seat in the nuclear suppliers group. India will be in the right direction when it comes to diplomatic gains in having its seat in the nuclear suppliers group. But in order to become a part of the nuclear suppliers group, every country, most of the countries want India to sign the non-proliferation treaty, which is discriminatory for India. It is not equal, it is unequal. And if we talk about the changes in the governments, since years the governments have changed, but because of its position in the nuclear map getting degraded in such a volatile contemporary world, the stand remains the same until and unless there is a converted and concentrated approach towards the nuclear disarmament. Nothing can be achieved. Not one country can have the mandate of holding nuclear weapons while the others can't. So that is something that we can think about. And India has shown reluctance in experimentation with the nuclear explosive since 1998. India has never been seen as an aggressor in the world polity. So why not a country like India, which is a major ally in having the secure and stable Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific region, why cannot its own reservation can be taken into account by the big countries, the big possessors of nuclear weapons? Okay, so let's move forward and talk about our mains-based question. Critically analyze the features of CTBT and why India is not signing it in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.